All right, anybody online got anything today? Let's
Louis, say something. Louis, I think we can hear you. Say something. Kristen, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, well, we got you now.
Nice touch. I know, that's the.
I can hear you too. That's Sue.
Hi, Sue. Good. All right, I'm gonna go on down the list here. So I know Nancy's not here yet. Where are you at? She just walked, she snuck right behind me. Nancy's here. Curtis is here.
I'm here.
Clint Seaman is not here. Aaron Peterson
Is here.
Meg is not gonna be here. She's picking her husband up at the airport, who just returned from the hospital. Louis,
Yes, I'm mostly here.
We got him. We hear you.
you want one?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Louis.
Okay, I'm gonna mute my mic now.
Okay. Morgan is not with us this evening. Casey,
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Casey's here. And Alan Parks is here. So we have 1, 2, 3. And board members, we have a quorum. We can conduct business. Hans is here. Jason is here. Eric Clark is here. Remind me who Anna is. For some reason, I have her name down here. Is she no longer with?
Admin assistant, she's, yeah. She's not the only one.
Great. All right. We can conduct business. Next item is to approve the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda? Alan Parks has an addition.
I don't have an addition, but I'd like to change the
Yes.
item 8H to new business instead of committee reports.
Yes. So that is the trail committee.
Put that under old business as B, if you don't mind, please.
Can you hear okay there? Louis, and it's hard to hear when you're on Zoom.
Oh, I don't have.
Can you hear okay? You guys on the Zoom? Yes. Yes.
I can hear you.
Okay.
So just for the record, I need to find out who else is there. There's somebody at, on the telephone number 398-4505.
Hi, Robert. This is Gary Fondry. I'm just going to listen in tonight.
Okay, Gary, thank you. And so we have Rice. You're with DNR.
Yeah, Reese Miranda with State Parks, Design and Construction.
All right, thanks, welcome. And
Thank you.
I think Kenny Roach is with us, I think. Or she was.
The R,
No, that's me.
oh, who's HS?
Al Shepard.
That's me,
Oh.
Al Shepard.
Al. All right, so we're going to move that. Instead of a committee report, I guess we haven't actually formed that committee yet, so we'll move that down to old business.
Yeah, old, B under old business.
Okay. And Meg was not gonna be here, so I think Jeannie Roche had a update on the Cottonwood Eastland neighborhood comments. If she shows up, I'll plug her in as a visitor. And Caleb,
Caleb is called and he got called on a police semi-emergency. So he's gonna try to come later,
okay,
or he might not make it, if not, like the schedule again.
okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kathy.
But he's a policeman now.
I got it.
So I was gonna have him as a visitor also, if he shows up. He's the one that did the scoping out of
Emerald.
Emerald, yeah, and he's got some good pictures and stuff. So. All right, is there anything else?
So he might be late.
Okay,
Or not.
with that, I need to approve the agenda. Is somebody needed to make the motion to approve the
I'd like to
agenda
approve the agenda
as amended?
as amended.
That was Nancy. Alan Park, second. Any objections? Seeing none, we have the agenda, good. All right. Next is approve the minute from October 9th. Are there any corrections to the minutes? And the minutes were kind of interesting this time, so
One correction.
lay it on me.
After 9 water trails,
After 9,
10 Cottonwood Eastland.
yep,
It says Cottonwood Eastland Way to the park is mile 17.
Yep.
It should say not mile 17.
is not mile 17.
That's all I have.
Great.
It's listed twice.
Tell me where.
Call to order in attendance.
Oh, how could that happen? I'll just cross him out. You're gone.
And Mr. Chairman, under, if I can find it, it's where it's under 13 new business on the interested in doing more conscious group meeting. Anyway, that's not quite accurate, and because it was in regards to the Trails Committee, and I think my comments are more along the lines of, I'll tell you here shortly, as soon as I.
Would you like to strike those from the minute?
Yeah, I'd like to strike that and then add just more reflective of the establishment of a Trails Committee. And it was then decided that Louis and Morgan and I would collect preliminary trail data and kind of bring it into one document and then bring it back to this meeting or report back on our efforts at this meeting. I have something written down I can send you.
Well, just be aware that these minutes are transcribed from the recording, the record. So what you say at the meeting is what's going to be in the minutes. So.
Right. So, Louis Morgan and I agreed to work on a database of trail information, see what we can come up with, report back to the CAB at this meeting, and then consider an official trail committee at this meeting.
Send it to me. I can't write that fast.
Okay.
Move to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Nancy, move to approve the minutes. Need a second. As amended.
As amended.
Ms. Adderhold, second. Any objections? Anybody else online? Anything? Okay. We're gonna move on then. Public comments. Is there anybody from the public that would like to make comment? Anybody online? Don't be afraid. Nobody here. All right. We'll close
is-
public. Okay, Hal,
this
go
is-
ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I was unmuting. I just wanted to let the committee know that the Kachemak Bay Watershed Council has sort of reorganized and reformed as a nonprofit and is continuing on in that capacity. We're going to be working on primarily putting together a watershed management plan for the Kachemak Bay watershed and submitting that to stakeholders and putting it out there in the community to try to get some input, approval, endorsement, particularly by state agencies, ADF&G and DNR. And focusing on, as part of putting together that plan, we're going to be looking at permits in the critical habitat areas, planning documents that cover the bay, the marine, and the freshwater environment to sort of just check out and see how agency compliance is and management of the bay is in compliance with those documents and the regulations, and just sort of acting as sort of a oversight entity in that regard. And I think Nancy is on our board. I think she might have brought this up at the last meeting, but we're also looking for board members to help direct the organization, and because we're kind of just getting started. So just wanted to let the committee know that we're back in the form of the Watershed Council, and we're kind of still developing our projects and the infrastructure, but hopefully we'll be able to stay in the game. So thanks.
Thanks for that update, Hal. Anybody else from the public? All right, we'll move on then. Next is visitors, and I plugged Jeannie Roche in there, the update from Cottonwood Eastland neighborhood. Jeannie, are you ready?
Can you hear me?
And good evening.
Okay, yeah. No, I just wanted to give the board an update on the Cottonwood Eastland neighborhood. As mentioned last month, there was has continued to be an increase in the public seeking parking access from within the neighborhood. Someone had asked if the Joneses camper field added to the traffic, but in fact, they only had one camper all summer and closed down after Labor Day. But the traffic increase over the past 2 months has been more than we've had over the past 1.5, 2 years. And obviously this has occurred from the public curiosity after the notice to the public about the trails from the Homer Cycling Club grant application. Also, I believe their website shows a proposed parking lot off Elmer's Way. So some of the impact has been, has included a resident having their driveway blocked so they couldn't get out. Fortunately, there was no incident from that. Cars half parked with their rear ends sticking out into the road, and a couple of difficult and, in one situation, scary passes on the road. With cars sticking into the road, it would have blocked or made very difficult for subsistence service or emergency trucks to get into the residence. So public parking on Elmer's and Raton should decrease in the winter with the snow, as there's really almost existent parking space. But in the past, there have been occasions where cars would just park on the road, effectively blocking access. So what we're going to do is put a sign up at the top of Raton Justin Court, redirecting the public to the miles 17.4 parking for the park access. And I don't think there's any sign there now. And I don't know that it'll be kept open with the snow, but at least we'll have the sign up for the season year round. Okay.
Thanks for that update, Jeannie. Everybody's working at trying to come up with a solution. Thanks a lot.
Yep.
It's her chance to talk.
I'd like one comment. There has never, the Homer Cycling Club website has never shown parking on.
Okay. Jeannie, did you get that?
I saw on the grant application that it is on the website, that they do show a parking lot. Or maybe they've taken it off. I don't know. I haven't looked recently.
Okay. Yeah, we'll make sure. Thank you. All right, we'll move on then. Is that Caleb's not here yet? State Park reports, Superintendent House.
Good evening, everyone. First and foremost, I'd like to introduce Reese Miranda. Reese is our lead engineer for the state. Leads our design and construction branch of state parks. So, Reese, if it sounds good to you, I can give our report and provide an opportunity for you if you have anything to say. Does that sound good?
Yeah, is this a good time to talk about our LWCF application for Johnson Lake?
Yeah, I think it's qualifies as a regional update, so I think we're good to go there. It's okay with you, Robert?
Sure. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I'll go ahead and do that. I will share my screen. Hopefully you guys are able to see this. Yeah, first of all, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here. What I'm doing tonight is I've prepared a Land Water Conservation Fund grant application for Johnson Lake. And I know Johnson Lake really isn't in your guys' area, but unfortunately that area doesn't have a cab. So as part of my public outreach for this grant application, I'm presenting it here before you folks to give the public an opportunity to comment, ask questions, or just fulfill that outreach component of most of our grant applications. So with that, I do recognize your guys' time commitment, so thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity. What my application entails, it is with the Land Water Conservation Fund grant program. It's a program that's sponsored by the National Park Service. It's a 50-50 grant program. So we put in 50% of the project cost, and then NPS puts up through the grant the remaining 50%. This project is for Johnson Lake. It's the paving, striping, and electrical improvements project. What we're aiming to do is to make some improvements to the campgrounds there. We have the West Campground and the East Campground, as well as the boating access portion of the facility. We hope to pave the entire facility. Right now, there's just a little paved apron off of Tussamina Lake Road. So we'll take it from there and pave both campgrounds, the east and the west, and as well as the day use parking and the boating parking area. So basically we're looking to pave the entire facility there, the access roads. We also want to improve the boat access portion. we want to expand the parking area there. Right now, there's a small area that can accommodate, I believe, 4 to 5 vehicles. So we want to expand that, create more room for truck with trailer to maneuver. And we also want to install a concrete boat ramp there, probably a single lane boat ramp. You know, it's pretty much going to be our standard design. So it's the same boat ramp that you've seen at our other facilities. The other thing we want to do is there's already electrical on site to the park host area there. We want to expand that and provide electrical hookups for the campsites at the East Campground. That East Campground is used primarily by RVs, and those RVs generally run a generator to meet their electrical needs. Those generators are noisy. They create fumes and really deteriorate the camping experience. So by providing a hookup, we can hopefully eliminate the generators and the noise and gas fumes that come with it. Like I said, this is a 50-50 grant match split. The price tag for the entire project is 1.6 million. So we'd be looking at putting up 800,000 from our CIP appropriation, and then the remaining 800,000 would come from the Land Water Conservation Fund. So with that, it's a pretty straightforward project. If our application is successful, we'll probably see funding next September, which would position us to begin the project in late 25. Design would probably carry through 26, and we can begin construction as early as 27 construction season. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions or respond to any comments that the group here may have.
Thanks, Reese. Any questions? Nancy?
Yeah, thanks, Reese. That's interesting. I love the word improve when when you're talking about a you can improve a park with concrete. But anyway, I was wondering, is there some primitive camping still going to be left? Because you said pave the whole thing. I just know, like Abercrombie, they did this. They didn't necessarily pave it, but they pretty much ruined all the camping from my perspective, because I'm more of a primitive camper. And you know, they made it so that it was very tame, let me say, and so I don't go there anymore. And because it's just not, you know, so I think are you taking into consideration the people that might want to have more of a primitive experience there? And, you know, just, is there a spot where you can leave it more of a natural way? And I understand, I mean, you have, you know, a TV or what do you call it? The campers and things like that. And the electrical is great to stop the noise from the generators. But I'm just wondering, I hope you hear what I'm saying. I mean, I don't know, I've been to Johnson Lake a couple of times, but I don't really know it that well. And it is a drive, but and I guess that's why you're asking for.
Yeah, I think I do understand the question. So there are walk-in campsites at the site. I've zoomed in the site plan. Unfortunately, the full range of the walk-in sites kind of fall off the sheet here. So there are here's the parking for those walk-in sites. So those walk-in sites will not be improved by this project. So those will remain in their unimproved primitive state. And really, when I say pave, all we're looking to pave is the circulation road. The campsites themselves will remain gravel. the primary objective of the paving the road is to help alleviate maintenance burdens. This road, we get a lot of potholes and washboarding. So by paving it, we would eliminate that. And additionally, we would reduce the airborne dust as well.
See, yeah, thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, I thought maybe the campsites would all be made into asphalt too, which would be kind of a pity. Because people are going out in the woods to, even in their campers, they're going out there not to have it be like a city when they get there. So anyway, thanks.
Yeah, no, we found that those campsites regularly need to be leveled and re-leveled, and so it would be best to do that to keep them gravel so that they can be graded for that purposes.
Reese, on the other side of the lake where it looks like there's roads going down the other side, is that going to be improved over there? Looks like a cul-de-sac there as far as paved road went, and then further down the road. Yep.
This area is the group use. This will not be improved. There is a gate located here, which is where we're excuse me, where we're stopping the paving. And this area is on a reservation basis, from what I understand. And so it has limited access. We found that the cost to pave that doesn't really make sense for the limited use that it does get.
Understood. So you have to get a reservation and walk in.
That's my understanding, but of course, maybe Hans can clarify if I'm misunderstanding that.
Best kept secrets at you can see off there. That's group camping, so you can rent that whole space, which is camping for maybe 10 tent sites, couple of RVs, $100. We give you a code to the gate so you can access that. You can have a whole corner of the lake. So it's very popular for family groups.
Thanks for
Yeah, I think there may be. I'm not seeing the whole view of the group here. I thought maybe there was someone raising their hands from the Teams folks.
There is somebody with their hand raised. Sue Christensen.
Okay.
Thanks so much. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, great. Boy, what excellent work, and thank you for it and for being an engineer. It's exciting that you are a resource for state parks. And I wonder a few different things. One, I think you said that the money would be coming from the CIP appropriation. And I just wonder if you could expand on that and kind of explain it a little bit. Those funds.
Yeah, certainly. So in our annual budget, we have a receipt authority to receive the federal funds. Since we already know that when we get the LWCF funding, we know that we're going to keep half of that for state parks projects, and then the other half goes out for competitive applications for local governments or other government agencies. And so knowing that we're going to keep half, we also have asked for the match funds to leverage that half that we were going to keep. So that's where we would that $800,000 portion match would come from.
And so do all of like the state parks kind of compete for that money, that CIP money appropriation? Like Johnson Lake is getting it, so it means there's less for some other area?
Yeah, I don't know that I would use the word compete, but yes, that's the same pot that we would use for other projects. So in this cycle, the LWCF funding comes up every year. This cycle, we put forward two projects, Johnson Lake being one of them, and Finger Lake being the other. And so those the match for those two projects would come out of that CIP pot.
Great. Thank you. And so just as a follow-up, two things. could we get you to write grants for us, one? And like, might you be available to help design some of our park issues? Like, how do we get you helping Kachemak Bay State Park with all your expertise?
Yeah. So first of all, I do handle all of the division's major capital projects. So I am involved with everything that goes on down there that gets funded through our budget. So a while back, a couple of years ago, I did get 700,000 to improve the toilets in Anchor River, for example. And we're also going to be improving the vaulted toilet there at Eveline Trailhead. So there's a outhouse there. We're going to be putting in a concrete vaulted toilet there. That's in the works now. As far as
Awesome.
as far as the area's greater project needs, we get our project ideas through the superintendents. So we collect all the superintendent's needs that, we get that from them. And then at the division level, the chief of field ops and the director and myself, we kind of hash out basically a kind of a prioritization of the collective need there. So if you have projects in mind, certainly run them through Hans, and that would be the beginning of the process to potentially get those addressed and funded.
Thank you so much. Great.
Thanks, Nancy. Nancy, did you have something?
Yeah, I just did. It was kind of along with what Sue was saying. But I'm wondering about like humidor toilets and things like that. I mean, Kachemak Bay is really in need of some form of either humidor toilet, something that's low cost and creates dirt, which is nice, so you don't have to pump things out. But are you doing anything like that? Is any of the money here for Johnson Lake going to include money for sanitation, or are you pretty set there in that area?
So a few years ago, we kind of went through on a statewide level and upgraded the worst of our vaulted toilets with the concrete vaulted toilets. And Johnson Lake benefited from that, I want to say in the early 20 teens. And so those are up to our current standards. And so we won't be addressing those under this project. I was, started to talk about Anchor River SRA. Those are kind of the next batch of our older generation vaulted toilets that are pretty much nearing their design life. So we did get 700,000 to replace the remaining old style toilets there, and hopefully that will be happening next summer.
Okay. And are you considering any humidor toilets? You know, something that uses sawdust and turns it into dirt. I mean, it's, there is some maintenance, but there's maintenance with any of these. So
yeah, pretty much. We work on those on a case by case basis with the field staff. But generally, I think when a facility's on the road system, it probably makes more sense to kind of have the standard volt and get a pumper out regularly. I know K-Bay has a composting toilet out there by the ranger station, and we kind of watched that. That was kind of a test project. I think the manufacturer offered to put that in at cost just to kind of give us a chance to test it out. From what I understand, it works well, and so conceivably, when we have a site or a facility with no road access, that would probably be our go-to design.
okay. And the last thing is, how do you said that you want us to listen to this so that people can, so there can be a public process, and how do the people that use Johnson Lake know that we would be listening to what they want to say? Or is that their only evidence to speak? on this?
Yeah, it is kind of difficult to reach that community. That's why I wanted to speak with this group with hopes that word of mouth, it makes its way up. I'm also trying to do the same thing with the Charisma cab, and hopefully same thing, word of mouth works its way down. So that's, I know the Kenai is kind of a small community, and people talk, which is a good thing for something like this. So what I'll do is on the chat here, I'll leave my contact information. And if you guys are, willing and able to help me spread the word, that would be much appreciated.
Ellen Parks.
Thank you.
And I
Yeah.
think Sue has her hand up again.
I see that. Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, hi, thanks a lot for letting us know about your project. And in regards to your electrical project, have you considered putting any electrical charging stations for vehicles?
We have not talked about that yet. At least not for this locale. We were approached by a charging station outfit. It may have been Tesla even, about putting some at vet memorials up along the park's highway. Um, that kind of fizzled. It was kind of a strange arrangement. They would put it in, and we would be responsible for maintaining it, and we just didn't know if we could commit to that. So that idea fell apart. But that was really the last time the thought of putting charging station at the state parks took place.
Yeah, thank you. If I may, as I understand it, there's funds available through the infrastructure bill. Anyway, thanks a lot for answering. I'd like to see it be kind of just something that the state gets used to doing. Because the more charging stations we have available, the more people would want to offset the RV generations. So anyway, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, we're definitely, as park use changes, we want to be in tune with that and as accommodating as we can. Thank you.
Sue Christensen, it's yours again.
I'll make it really quick. We will definitely spread the word. Thank you so much. And I just wonder, have you spent time across the bay in the park? And if you haven't spent much time, I would like to invite you just to come and really see some of our issues. And I know you're probably a really busy guy, but I think that would be so good for us.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have been across a couple times, but unfortunately, I think the last time was 2017 or 2016. Definitely too long, and I would welcome any opportunity to make it out there again.
Great.
I hope we can do it.
Me too.
Just one really quick question. As part of your grant application, did you put together usage numbers of number of visitors per year, I guess? It seems like you have an easier way of estimating that given the campsite reservation system.
Yeah, so that's actually one of the criteria we use to prioritize these projects is obviously we want to put this money towards facility that get a lot of use. So it's kind of strange, it's kind of weird. We don't have use counts, but what we have is revenue generated, which we can then convert to use. So a park that gets a lot of fee generated, it tells us that it gets a lot of use. The feds don't like to see that as a criteria because they think we're just reinvesting money into facilities that make a lot of money for us. But in reality, that's just how we can tell which ones are getting the most use.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody online? Reese? maybe you could run us through just a little bit Land and Water Conservation Fund money and CIP. What is that acronym for?
Yeah, I apologize. I kind of always assume everyone's on the same page. So thank you for that. So CIP, I'll start off with that. It stands for the Capital Improvement Program. That's basically the funding mechanism that we get through the governor's budget and the subsequent legislative process. So that's the state budget, and that's what we get. So projects that are identified under that program, CIP, that's the state funding that we get in our annual budgets. Land Water Conservation Fund, it's been around a long time. We've done a lot of good projects with them. I believe K-Bay has benefited from that. I want to say it was some land acquisition that LWCF funding was used for before my time. And I started with the division in the late 90s, so it was before then. It's been around since the 1960s. The funding levels, the apportionments hadn't been the best until recently under the first Trump administration when he passed the Great American Outdoors Act. The funding levels were boosted, where we would get somewhere along the lines of up to $500,000 per year. We're now getting upwards of $3 million a year. And so, like I said, we split that up. So out of 3 million, we would keep 1.5 million of grant funds for parks projects, and then 1.5 million goes out to local governments and municipalities. And that seems to be a pretty good system. It works well. In fact, I think the last go around, the full 1.5 million, there may not have even been enough local government applications to scoop up the 1.5 million, in which case we would probably try to pull those into the state park system. The match, the primary match I kind of explained comes from that CIP. We know we're going to use half of that apportionment for our purposes, so we've in our budget process asked for the match as well. But sometimes I do use other state funding. If I have a project that's still fully state funded, I will look see if I can stretch those dollars with an LWCF grant. And I did that with Morgan's Landing. We got funding from the Exxon Valdez oil spill trustee council, which the money comes straight to us, so it's considered state funding. I use that to leverage LWCF money, and so we're gonna make improvements to that facility here in the near future. The caveat with LWCF is once you commit LWCF funding to a facility or a site, it goes under LWCF protection in perpetuity. And basically that facility has to be used for outdoor recreation use forever. If that use changes, or if there's a development that conflicts with that use, they consider that a conversion. And we would either have to pay the money back to the feds or some other arrangement. And this is something we deal with all the time with Chugach State Park. That's under LWCF protection, the whole park. So anytime DOT wants to widen the Seward Highway, there's the risk of that conversion. And or if they want to develop material sites that would impact the outdoor recreation potential of the park, we have to deal with that. And it's a lengthy process. It's a headache for a lot of people involved. And so with that, we have through our leadership, we have made a conscious decision to not create new LWCF parks. And so the LWCF funding that we're using now, we're just putting in parks that had received LWCF funding in the past so that we don't create that conversion issues upon ourselves.
Understood.
The nice thing is for this group, like I said earlier, K-Bay did receive LWCF funding in the past, so it is an LWCF site. So we wouldn't hesitate to apply LWCF funding to that park in the future.
Well, thanks for that, Reese. I don't see any other questions, so
Okay.
maybe
All right. Well,
something in the peninsula here, there's always the newspapers that can get the word around really fast on, maybe too fast for you, but,
mhm. Yeah, and you know this is one of the items that was identified, and we're working on improving on getting the word out. But I nonetheless I appreciate this opportunity and everyone's time here this evening. I did put my contact information in the chat there. As always, too, if that information gets lost, Hans and Jason, both of them know how to get a hold of me, so you can use them as conduits to get comments and questions to me.
okay, well, thanks for your time. You enlightened us a lot, I think, tonight, so thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, before you go, Reese, can you just explain again what LWCF stands for?
Yeah, it's the Land Water Conservation Fund, Land and Water Conservation Fund.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll type that on the chat too, so it's captured there as well.
Okay, thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
It comes from, too. Oil industry.
What happens if they have to buy that back? Where does that money come from? Just thought I'd ask.
For conversion,
Mhm.
you know, talked about that a little bit this fall. I just was introduced to the idea. There's, I think it's value for value. They buy it back.
But who buys, where's the money come from?
To buy, the state would have to pay back.
State, so it's state money that has.
And like, you know, as it was explained to me, you can, as long as it stays for outdoor rec, like you can, you know, you can make a pickleball court at Johnson Lake, right? If all the camping went away instead of the outdoor recreation.
Oh, I
You
see.
can convert it outdoor.
So you can convert it, but you can't, yeah,
Can't. you know,
change it into something commercial or whatever.
exactly.
Anything else?
Just for a little context, just to move things along is, to be real brief, Robert. State Parks, we have a director and we have branches. The folks here are in the operations branch. Reese is in the design and construction branch. He heads that branch up. He has, you know, Reese can fact check this for him, but about a dozen staff that work for him, engineers, project managers, permitting staff. Now staff work all throughout the state on the state parks projects and other state projects. We probably have maybe 6 or 8 in the hopper with Reese. I do within the, you know, that's from Evelyn to Seward, you know, that we're working on with Reese. So he's a great, we work closely together, obviously. Great technical asset for us and good staffing. So I'll just leave it at that, Robert, to keep things moving.
Thanks, Hans. Yep. Next is Jason. Have you got anything to enlighten us with besides your written report?
Oh, didn't even do a written report. Haven't been out on the bay much. Few times there have been, it's been tuck bay, crab, season inspections, checks, some buoys in violation, mislabeled, nothing major. Duck season, I know there's been increased activity of duck hunting out there, but haven't been out there while duck hunters are. That's about all I got.
Any questions for Jason? Getting off light easy tonight. All right, let's move on then to committee reports. And you want to talk about what we talked about?
Talk about much. I mean, some of it's in here. You know, we talked about
Right.
Diamond Creek. You know, dealing with trails and stuff like that, Diamond Creek and what's going on there. Dealing with, it fenced off with the part of the trail slid away. There is a little bit of a reroute, a temporary one, and hopefully plans come springtime to find a more permanent route around that. That will just take away that first part, and it will meet up after the slide area. China Food Lake RTP, just pretty much, have met with, had a teams meeting with the grant administrator. We have been discussing exactly what we're going to do. We have started the ball rolling to ask for an extension and more money, but we're still kind of taking that into consulting amongst ourselves, because we're talking about a budget increase of about $20,000. We'd have to do a new environmental review for the whole thing. And as going forward, this extension wouldn't complete. We would have to do another RTP grant to connect half of the trail back into the China Food Lake Trail. So,
You want 5 minutes? I'm just, because I know Kathy wanted to do a Friends report real quick.
I'm gonna do it for
You're gonna do it? All right, then.
him. Sorry, pretty short.
Okay,
Pretty short.
thanks for coming. Carry on.
Talked a little bit about composting toilets and what they're doing up in the Matsu, up in Alpine. And that maybe could be a fit for K-Bay in places. We'll probably find out some more information about that over the winter. It'd be great to see what the modifications were. From what I understand, it's a modification. And it'd be great to see how it does work up in Alpine, for over a year or something like that. And that's about it. I mean, Cottonwood Eastland is they got I think maybe Camille might talk about Cottonwood Eastland later, then I'll skip that. And that's about it. We just had lively discussion about trails and stuff at mile 17, stuff dealing with trails all over in Homer and all that, and how to try to get younger people involved in helping out with trails, be it if it's the Homer Trails Alliance or if it's Kachemak Bay State Park or Homer Cycling Club, the Nordic Ski Club.
Bring screens.
What brings
Bring screens.
we'll just walk with the phone in front of us, and you don't have to leave your home. You can just do the trail. Like Diamond Creek,
Not a bad
this
idea.
month of this year. So anyway, that's what I got.
Thanks, Eric.
Sure.
Any questions? Anybody online have any questions? All right, we're gonna move on. Camille, you got the Friends of Kachemak Bay State Park?
So the Friends report is very concise. The annual meeting is going to be December 14th here from 5 to 7. It's going to be a potluck, so come and join us. We'll have a number of really great presentations. And then we're having a pie auction the day before Thanksgiving. I think that's 6 p.m. at Grace Ridge. There's a little flyer over here kind of going around. Last year, the pie auction was incredibly successful. What did we raise, Robert? About $2,600.
We raised a lot of money.
Pies and desserts. It was just amazing. And the desserts were amazing too. I mean, it was a really fun event attended by a lot of people. It's the day before Thanksgiving, so come and get your desserts for the holidays. You can freeze anything you want to save it for Christmas.
Where's that gonna be?
At Grace Ridge.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and
What
there's
was that?
always a food truck.
That's right.
I need some help. You're gonna come.
I was just like, wow,
And Robert is the auctioneer.
Get to eat desserts though.
Yeah, I was holding.
I mean, the desserts
They were
really
incredible.
amazing.
They
A
were
lot of
incredible.
competition for some of those desserts. I think the most expensive one went for $250, was it, or something?
The
like
most expensive one went for like $500.
that? $500.
And that was
I don't
the,
think anything went for less than $100.
that was that emergency room doctor.
That's right. That's right. I remember.
He said $500 and I turned around, I said, that's a bid.
That's like, yeah.
And she
It's a fun. It's a lot of fun.
Oh,
Camille, you said the annual meeting is what day?
December 14th.
no, it's the 4th.
Oh, December 4th.
Yes,
That's
I-
what
Well,
it's still-
Kathy gave me the wrong date, December 4th.
I had to-
14th Saturday. So.
yeah.
From 5 to 7 here,
Okay.
December 4th. We have a number of good, quick and dirty, good presentations. And good food always with the potluck.
And we have some
Yeah.
board members province
Yes.
coming aboard who are young. So that is very, very nice. All right. Any questions? None? All right, we're gonna move on then. Next is water trail. And Dave,
Yeah, so I was, just looking at the minutes back, it wasn't important then, but there's not 2 Dave brands in minutes, there's DRANN, not DRANDT. But I know that comes over the recorder thing and so on. But anyway, as far as the actual water trail report, I was also gonna report on the dessert auction because we share the water trail and the Friends share some of the proceeds from that. I encourage everybody to come and do that. The other main thing that the water trail is working on is been starting for a long time to upgrade the website for the water trail. It's been 10 years since we started, and there's been some changes, in those 10 years. And so one of the things I was asked about earlier was the updated state park trails map that can go on our website and some of those things. But it's a process for Robert and I to go through the changes we want to see made and then pass them on to our webmaster and so on. But we'll get there eventually. But that's the main thing. And then the water trail and the Friends are invited. The board is at my house on December 10th. We have a social. We're done talking about water trail stuff and things for the evening, and it's a big food potluck up at my house. Just gather up in the season. And state park guys are invited to that as well. So,
date again?
yeah, yeah.
December 10th.
Oh, 10th. December 10th. 5 o'clock, come at 5 o'clock. You can stay as long as you want.
Bring our sleeping bags.
Yeah. People interested in trails and stuff like that in common. Yeah, we'll probably have some beer and wine there, but you can bring your own beverages if you have preference. And take a food potluck.
Thanks, Dave. You laugh, but there have been many people that have slept on Dave Brand's living room floor, especially after the wine and cheese tasting. Any questions? Anybody online questions? All right. We'll move on then. Cottonwood Eastland. Anybody going to speak to that?
I will.
Okay, you have the floor first and then Aaron. How's that?
Okay, sure.
So the RTP grant for the Cottonwood Eastland Multi-Use Trail Project was submitted, has been submitted. There were a total of 29 environmental documents and 24 application documents. It was humongous. Wow. The competition for an RTP grant is extremely high. It's a limited amount of dollars. This is a non-motorized trail project. There are probably 18 other RTP grant submissions for non-motorized trail projects. Several of them are phase 2 or 3 projects, which we suspect would have higher priority over a brand new project, although we don't know that. We did meet with Hans prior to our 4 o'clock trails meeting to sort out some of the details. And again, we really want to thank Parks help in making this work. There's been a lot of work on the ILMA, which is still going forward. We've got a couple other things where we pretty much ironed out all the details. It's just a matter of, getting them done, which we've got a plan for getting them done. We wouldn't be able to do this without the support of especially Hans, working with the other parks entities, working with DOT, working with DNR. So we are enthusiastic about our application. We have an extremely strong application, and the fact that Parks has been so supportive and helpful with our application does give us hope. However, we are also will be pursuing some alternative funding sources. One reason is because if we do get the RTP, it wouldn't cover the entire cost of phase 1, but in case we don't get the RTP. So we're still busy at work pursuing other funding sources. That's it. Nancy.
Yeah, I was wondering about the dog leg piece, that the borough, do you know anything further on that?
No, the ILMA got revised in March. A new ILMA was submitted with only the one piece of property that accesses East End Road. No, and that the reason rationale for that was to make it easy for DNR just to sign a piece of paper.
But I mean, do we know, because at that point
No.
it wasn't, no. we don't
No.
know.
I have no idea what's going on with
Do you
those
know
other
anything
pieces
about
of
that?
properties.
What's gonna happen with that, or
This is the state or borough?
it's borough?
It's actually, it's way down deep inside the park.
Right in the
It's
middle,
not on
it's like the
that map at
heart.
all.
No, no.
It's not.
Without getting some more context
Yeah.
for you.
Because somehow they put a bid, it's not a bid, but they put their mark on it, and so it's right smack dab in the middle of the Cottonwood Eastland Park.
General DNR lands.
It, was it DNR lands? Or was it just open for,
I thought it was DNR lands. It was
Okay.
on the DNR land list of one of the
And they
previous
just put their-
ILMAs that we researched and
they
decided not to
nominated
include anything.
people. Yes,
Yes, okay.
it looks like a dog leg.
Yeah, I can visualize it.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll consider a phased approach, get this phase one done.
Right.
Phase two.
Well, because it's in the it's in the hopper right now, and so it isn't a done deal, I don't think, is that, do you remember
That
that?
is correct.
And so.
Although I don't know if that ILMA, since that was several ILMAs ago, I don't know if that ILMA is still.
It's just one of those things you might want to eyeball and talk to your friends.
So this is a piece of property inside the park
Right,
that the borough has put in.
Yep, and we thought we had it, and then when we were looking at it, we realized that the borough had actually put a bid on it for they've selected it.
So that also includes that piece right alongside Raton.
There are a couple. Well, no, that's completely separate. The piece alongside Raton has nothing to do with any of the ILMA stuff. That's.
No, but I'm saying the borough
The
has.
borough has that piece.
Right,
Yes.
yeah, that's a different.
That's a completely separate.
But the borough has put in for some of that land in there?
It's a great big piece in the middle, and I think.
I have
we
not
still
heard of
don't
that.
know that's for sure.
It still has to be recreation, I think, but still, right? It's zoned recreation, so I mean, but then do you
But I
want to partner of the borough, or, I don't know. So it's just one of those little sticky wickets you might want to eyeball.
So how did that one get by us?
Yeah, I guess that's.
Sidebar conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sue. Sue Christensen.
Thanks, Robert. I'm wondering if we can get as a priority, if it's necessary, funding to get snow plowed at 17.5 this winter. You know, if the Rangers won't do it, or can't, we need to ask for bids and fundraise for that. And I would certainly be willing to help, but I think it needs to be a priority just for problem solving. It needs to be put on the top of a list.
Thanks for that.
It's not that expensive, really.
And people are going to use it to ski there because it's a nice area.
Thanks for that. I don't have any solution to that right now. I doubt that the state would have any funds to do that, huh?
Discuss it.
Well, I know they have a snowplow truck.
I know they do too, but that's a long ways out there, so.
And once it burns up.
It is
there's
part of the park. So maybe figure out, gas and like.
There's a contractor out there that has a lot of big equipment. Maybe we could get a bid. Oh,
And you're talking about Jones?
yes.
Okay. I will do that.
Karen.
So that's a great idea, because pretty much the park is shut down because of the snow. Right now you can hardly get in there. Maybe you could get in there today, but that's a great idea. It needs to be plowed.
Alan,
I'd pass.
anybody else?
Yeah, Robert, I've got one. Okay, from the audience. Or,
Go ahead, Dave.
yeah, I was wondering with the new ILMA application, if we committed a fee with that, and if the previous ILMA went away, do we get our interest-free loan to the state back for our earlier application, $2,500?
That's a good question. So did you have to?
So we did not submit a fee, and I have no idea what's happened to the prior ILMAs.
Good question.
So I do believe that the Friends of Kachemak Bay State Park have submitted 2 ILMAs with funding. And it would be, we can always use $2,200. Anyway. All right,
For snow plowing.
yeah. Did you have anything you wanted to say about Cottonwood Eastland?
Yeah, so in Kachemak Eastland, in that area between the trailhead and the east end of Elmer's Way where the gravel ends, and then towards the bay, they used to pasture cattle in there. So there's a whole bunch of barbed wire, and then there's another heavier strand of wire that's in the trees, and it's on T-posts, and it's a hazard, and Janet Klein and I have spent time trying to get rid of it because it's still a lot more of it. So and it's a hazard. So just another project for the park. And the other thing on my agenda is at the corner of Raton and Elbert's Way, somebody took down the sign that says Raton Street and Elmer's Way, and they dumped it along East End, along Elmer's Way up on the left way. So, all I have.
Thanks, Aaron. I will say that skiing running into barbed wire is not fun, especially if you're making in time at all. So in my neck of the woods, we spent a lot of time pulling barbed wire.
Also, there's those T-posts that are sticking up.
Yep, and those have been known to kill moose. So, have one right in my front yard. All right, thanks, Aaron. We'll move on. Evelyn State Recreation, and I don't think Nikki is here tonight because she's up at the ski swap. But she said that the ski club is gonna kick in from their funding, $2,000 and something for working on some of the wetter areas. And they're looking forward to a good ski season. So. All right. Habitat.
Yeah, so I'm working with Hal Shepherd with the Watershed Council. And possibly, I mean, as he just mentioned, we're formulating this because possibly we could become a habitat committee also for the critical habitat and then be able to collaborate with the park. Because there is no oversight really, and the closest anyone is to from the state in the critical habitat is in Hina. So it's a long ways away. They're really and they do all of them from there. So they really aren't intimate with the Kachemak Bay critical habitat area. So once we get that formulated, then we can bring more things to this board, and during the habitat committee, we can report on what we're finding, and we're working on the permitting, looking back into the permitting and finding out what actually has been happening. And we're trying to find out where all of our species have gone, because we've lost so many species within the critical habitat, and it's kind of sad when you have a critical habitat with no inhabitants, so we have to, so we're going to try to find out what that is, then maybe move into something like rehabilitating some of the creatures that are in the critical habitat, and just find out, like through the National Estuarine Reserve and the other entities. We have the NOAA Habitat Focus Area, and just be able to collaborate, which is part of the parks job also, and the critical habitats job, and just be able to bring everyone together so we can protect not only the substrate, but also the species that, you know, so we don't keep losing them so much. So that's what we're doing. So
Any questions? That's a great idea. I'm looking forward to seeing something come out of that.
well, we've been working on it a long time, but you know, we were working with the Department of Habitat or Division of Habitat when they had a Division of Habitat head, and he was going to come and visit, and he was excited that we were going to have a committee, and you know, because it's needed. It is. We need someone to, when permits come through, or just kind of like this one here, but it would pertain to the habitat, because it's so much more than just substrate, and that's what I think where we've gone awry in the state is to the definition of habitat does not include zooplankton and the species themselves and what they eat and the whole ecosystem, because it's a really important part of what a habitat is and why there is a habitat, whether it's critical or not. So, thanks.
Thanks, Nancy. I don't see anybody with any questions, no hands up or anything, so good. Let's move on to old business. Update on a personal watercraft lawsuit. No update. Did you have something, Aaron?
I'm sorry, no, I thought you missed, Alan.
Oh, yeah, we moved Alan.
He's an old business.
Get me down the road.
He's down there in old business. We'll move along. There's gonna be 3 new Supreme Court judges appointed for too long. It's kind of a, who knows what these people are gonna say. You hope for the best and expect the worst. And at this point, I have no healthy thought that we're gonna keep those guys out of here. I do know that a Fognac and one other Shuyak, they don't allow.
Wood chip shake.
Yeah. So we're not setting any kind of precedent by asking those people to stay out. It's the critical habitat. Of course, we don't have a plan yet either, so everybody's, I mean, you want to talk about dragging feet. But if in fact this does happen, there is going to be a lot of jet skis in this bay, and I think that we need to think about that and see how we're going to get those, how we're going to handle that in the state park. Just for comments from from people that are over there right now for this past summer, when there's people over there with jet skis and they come in there, 10, 11 o'clock at night, full snort, and it's very depressing. And it's not an enjoyable thing, which is what the state park is supposed to be. So you guys, we got some thinking to do on that one. So
It's not a shoe-in though, is it? It's not, for the park, it's not just the state does it for the critical habitat and you're just gonna follow suit. I mean, it'll be, you can alter it and put regulations. I mean, I'm just thinking on a box, so you can change things to, you can say, okay, you can't go more than 5 miles an hour in the park or something like that, or.
Context of regulation change, is that what you're asking? Lindsay? Yeah, I guess conceivably we could, change the reg.
I mean, it's not like just open and shut, open, shut. I mean, there's still can be regulations on it, and
there could be.
And this one here is just for the critical habitat area at this point, right? Or is it that just go as you go?
It's the critical habitat, but as in the management plan says, if they're allowed in the critical habitat, more than likely, just from the management standpoint, state parks would have to follow suit.
But it says more than likely. It's not a for certain, is it? I mean, it's just, it didn't say we will do this. So I think we need to hang on to that and use that. me personally, so. Cause I think the park has those narrow bays, and it's just, you know, it's, if they're out in the open, it's different, but the narrow bays are full of wildlife. And it's, there's just no way they can get out of the way. So, anyway.
And you can bet that there's gonna be rentals here, and they're gonna be, you know, they don't go one at a time. So there's numerous that go in a group, and you know how much fun they are. Anyhow, stay tuned to that one. We're all kind of waiting to see what happens, so. All right, now we are at B, establish a trails committee, and I was remiss in not remembering that in our last meeting, we talked about establishing a trails committee. Now I'll let Mr. Parks speak to this one, because he was the one that came up with this.
Thanks, Robert. Basically, I think that there's a couple of things, you know. A lot of what we do is we talk about trails. And so from my perspective, I think that we should have a standing committee on this board called the Trails Committee. I think that could serve the board well in a lot of different ways. Like if there's any new trail issue, like just using Higgs' letter as an example. You know, say someone calls Robert and says, hey, I need a letter of support for this trail. And then Robert would say, well, that's got to get ran by the Trails Committee. And then the Trails Committee could figure out what's appropriate time to meet would be and take up the issue of all the details associated with Higgs' request for support. And then we would bring it back to the board and say, yeah, that's a great idea. These are why that's a good idea. And then it would help the chairman, Robert, relieve his workload. That's just one aspect of it. And then another aspect is just trying to support the Friends at a more higher level as a board. That's another, and more officially. I mean, I know that everybody here loves the Friends. I love the Friends, but I'd like to get more. It seems like it's a good way to engage this board officially with the Friends, just as an example, and all the other organizations that are working on trails here. I think that would be a good thing. And then, you know, it kind of just brings up from Morgan and I working on this, you know, consolidating all the data with trails, you know, trail counts, you know, where are we at with the maintenance of the trails and what's going on. It's kind of like, you know, I had the pleasure of picking up those good folks that did the recon on the Emerald Lake Loop. And it was just, you know, I mean, they did a lot of work. I mean, they did that whole loop and they had all this information and they gave it to Eric, I think, and to Kathy. And I think from my perspective, the more we engage with all this information about what we spend a lot of time talking about, and if we can get that going, not that it's not going, but I mean, just so that we can engage as many board members as we can on the topic of what the Friends is talking about. And because, you know, I took them over, but I didn't know anything. But really, I mean, I saw some pictures and stuff, and it was all great. I mean, I'm not trying to be critical that they weren't sharing the information with me. I could have seeked it out, but that culture of involvement and inclusion is going to spill out into the community over time. And it's just a good protocol from my perspective. So that's, you know, just kind of like what I think is a lot of benefit of a standing committee. of a trail. And I was a little bit, and, you know, because when I suggested it, I was, you know, I called up Robert and I said, hey, you know, am I stepping on somebody's toes? Because you got this kind of informal meeting happening before the official meeting. And he said, no, that's just the informal. Anybody can go there and talk, which I think is great. I mean, it's nice to be able to talk informally, but it's also nice to be able to take official actions and concise actions on trail issues that we see that are appropriate. So anyway, and then just to follow up on that, with the work Morgan and I are doing, we've kind of been sharing a Google document between us. It's not quite ready to spit out in the world, but you know, we're getting, Jason's given us some data, Eric's gave us a little data. We're talking to Kathy. She shared her, invited me to her app that she uses primarily with her group, and that's great. And so, you know, we're trying to get as much information. As soon as we get it, I'm pretty sure by the next meeting we'll have it all pretty much where we need to, as far as we can take it. And then, you know, we're going to reach out to the other trail organizations and engage them. So anyway, and so I welcome comments and suggestions, and I'm interested in what you all think about a standing committee on for trails.
Thanks, Alan. Any comments? Anybody online?
Should we vote on it?
Well, I think it's a great idea. I think that you and, you know, with Kathy, people, it could be a clearinghouse for information like that. And when the public finds out that there is a motivated group that was looking for information, it's just like Caleb. He went over there and took pictures and GPS that whole trail. And I was going to steal some of his thunder because I have that, but I think I'll wait and let him do it. But, you know, if we get people from the end, speaking about young people, there's a lot of people that are into that GPS stuff and taking pictures and everything. He's not the only one that's been doing that. So, you know, if there is a group of people that are totally interested to bring that to this board, I think, you know, it's going to be a lot more beneficial for this group to have it concise, to the point, and us trying to understand what everybody's trying to say and then not having enough time. Know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would ask for a motion to establish a trails committee if someone thinks that's a good idea.
I'd like to make a motion to create a standing trails,
Thank you, Nancy.
I second it.
unless you wanted to do.
No, you did a great job. You did a great job.
Alan Park seconded it. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, we have a trails committee. Thank you, Alan, and whoever else is going to be helping you out. I expect to be a little bit involved. So,
Excuse me, this is Kirsten. Sorry to interrupt. So, I'm a little bit confused. What is the Trails Committee that or Trails Group that meets before our meetings then? How is that different?
so that's a group that just is informal. We're not taking any thunder away from Eric. I think what this other group is going to do is reach out more to the public.
Mr. Chairman, well, I think, according, as I understand the bylaws, is that we need to establish a chairman of it. That's one thing.
Yep.
And then the other thing is, I think that it's advantageous and to work with Eric and anybody in the most positive way possible. I mean, it's all good stuff. And so and so the more inclusive we are, the more because, yeah, that, of course.
It can be collaborative.
Yes,
You
I
know,
was
and
gonna
this is-
say that.
This is how dealing with the staffing, like what Caleb and Jocelyn did.
Yeah.
You know, that is getting eyes on something that I don't have eyes on.
Right.
You know, and once you start mapping this stuff out, you can start recording this for deferred maintenance. You can start, there's a whole plethora of routes you can go down by writing grants and shelving them, you know, and you can have stuff like this. You can do that for every, stuff can be done with every trail. That is helpful to staff to figure out where we want to go with the limited funding that we have, but that does not preclude and does not hold back what maybe friends might want to do or another group organization with, you know, the understanding of where, you know, trails and all this kind of stuff can do something. And it's not a bad idea. And it's kind of like taking up what, you know, the division had a trails department. I don't know if it was really a trails department, but this was back in 2008, 7, where it was an idea of starting to have a subset within operations of parks that deals with trails. That has since kind of, you know, filtered away or petered out or whatever. And so this is just another way of doing that. And that could be just mainly for around here, be it if it's Bay, be it if it's Diamond Creek, definitely Cottonwood East.
You called a point of order. I should have stopped right
Yeah,
then. and
sorry.
said, what's your point of
I
order?
guess I was gonna ask for clarification on what kind of committee, standing special subcommittee or working group, but it sounded like standing committee.
Yeah.
And so it does talk about these other members that can be part of that, liaisons, public members of
Yep.
the public. And it just has to be a board member.
A board member.
Would it take away from that informal group to make that be the committee meeting? I don't want to step on toes here, but I would, it sounds like it's the same group of people would be interested.
Right, you know, and you could set it up, you can have an informal thing plus the trails committee. I think, you know, however you want to set it up, you know.
Like informal and then do a short formal program. I'm just trying to.
It all depends, like, if I may, if they collaborate with somebody like what these two people did, and I know that they have collaborated with Kathy a lot on doing various trail projects and things. And if there's trails committee that, you know, and some of those people can't come to these meetings, especially in the summertime or whatever. But if there's somebody that's cognizant of what's going on out there in the community, even more so than what trails, our little informal meeting is beforehand, they can bring that information to the board. If they want to, they can bring it to the trails committee meeting too. And it's not going through the summer, we may not have those trails committee all the time. If Eric or somebody isn't here to, who knows?
I think it's kind of like the Habitat Committee. I mean, I'm working with the National Estuarine Reserve and then Al, and he's got all his feelers out with 50 different organizations. And so then, but it's able to come back into here and the report is able to come forward that, you know, I think it's a great collaborative thing. And I don't think anyone's stepping on anyone's toes. And if they are, then you take them down. So simple as that.
You know, and a standing committee doesn't have longevity for years and years if it's not working. Pass it on. Okay. Everybody good with that? Kristen, are you good with that? Kristen Dixon.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Okay, I wanted to make sure that your question was answered, so. Okay,
Thank
no,
you.
you have your trails committee.
And one question I have though, so you'll still meet, right? In the early, I mean, you'll still,
You can, yeah.
I mean, don't you think?
Matter.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the point, my point is broadening the circle and being inclusive and getting everybody talking more. You know, I mean, that's my, you know, part of my motivation. It's not I'm coming here for, you know, I'm gonna be here, you know, and so it's not about anything other than that, and helping Robert having a avenue to say, I can't deal with this letter. I'm spitting it to the Trails Committee. I can't deal with this. I'm spitting it to the Trails Committee because I, as a board member, I feel obligated to help, you know, and I want to help the chairman, and I want to be involved in the Trails Committee, and I want, you know, that's just, anyway, I think you guys get my point.
That's cool. Well, you know, we'd be looking as the board for your input as to whether the board should recommend either a letter of support or a resolution or something like that, you know? So.
Right, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I wouldn't be a sole, I mean, I would welcome anybody to join me and actually chair it if they want to, you know, but I mean, but I wouldn't solely be the decider on a letter of recommendation. I would take it to the, you know, to my peers.
Yeah.
You know, if there's not a energy amongst you all to meet me at another time or over Zoom or whatever. But, you know, the like I said, you know, it's something that will help you in your work and help the board and this process.
Go get all those.
In my humble opinion.
Go get all those youngsters.
Roger that.
10-4. Thanks, Alan. I think that's going to be an interesting committee. All right, let's move on then. Future of Diamond Creek Trail, and I think we talked to that quite a bit today. And there is some people that put a little hard work into that. So for those that didn't hear that, maybe you could just expound upon that real quickly, because it is open, it is walkable.
Yeah, people can hike down there. There's a temporary route around the slide area that is fenced off, and my hope is in the spring is to find a new route, in a sense, pretty much where the kiosk is there at the parking lot, the lower parking lot, going up along the uphill side along the top of that slope, and then angling back down to the slope, and just making something more permanent, and then just really keeping people far away from that. And then, because in case that, you know, the way it looks now, that well, I'm looking at it now, it's it could, you know, it could go. It can just keep moving and creeping. Shall see. But that is the hope. You know, and I think we were going to maybe try to investigate a little bit dealing with the FEMA money too.
Where is that?
Somewhere.
Okay.
I
Just
have
thought
no
I'd
idea.
ask.
I was going to ask Reese.
He was on the tangent. We know how to get in contact.
Well, thanks for that. Sure. Thanks for, I mean, you know,
That's cool.
when that slides down into a muddy mire of muck, it doesn't stay that way very long because people want to use that trail. And even if you put a gate up there and everything else, they're gonna find a way to get up and down from there. So. All right. I got this one, CAB bylaws on there, and hopefully everybody looked at those. There is some confusion a wee bit. There is, you know, when we redid those bylaws Ricky T said he wants one set of bylaws for all CABs. So when we looked at what he gave us, we pushed back a little bit and he let us have some leeway with the ones for down here. I've seen one thing that has always kind of bothered me, and that's the term. The term is for 3 state physical years, starting in July through June. Well, we start our meetings in September, and usually we're done in June. But through the summer, we could have a special meeting if we wanted. So it would be more sense to have a term start in September and end at the end of August, because that's when people come on board. Because that's actually when they get appointed too. So there's kind of a little disconnect there. Maybe we could talk about that a little further, but anybody else have any input? Alan?
Thanks, Robert. Yeah, there's a couple things that kind of stick out to me and it came, I kind of started reading it a little bit when we did an electronic vote on Higgs letter or electronic communication. There's nothing in there about electronic communication, and I think it's really handy, but I think you could get wrapped around the axle with if it's not clearly defined about what that actually means. You know, if it's a vote, you know, I mean, how you know, what type of discussions allowed electronically, and so I'm not really a big fan of having issues debated and discussed electronically. I don't really much like. I'm glad y'all are on here, like, you know, over Teams and stuff, but that's kind of awkward for myself too. You know, I like in-person meetings and I like talking to people. So anyway, that's one thing. But you know, I don't have any. And then the other thing is in conflict of interest. You know, it's if I think I have a conflict of interest, I'm gonna say I have a conflict of interest. You know, because I'm a commercial operator in the park, and so if there's something that I don't see anything coming, but if there's something that comes before the board and I think I'm going to make money off the decision that is being made, I'm going to declare a conflict, and then it's the way I read it. You all vote on if it's a conflict or not, and also that's one thing that's spelled out in there. But if I don't, and you think I do, I think that you should be able to say, I think Alan has a conflict. You know, I think you should, you know, and I think that that's a healthy thing to have, you know, and then you all would vote on it the same way. You say, well, yeah, actually he does, or he doesn't, or whatever it is. I just think it's good to have. It needs to be spelled out in there so that we don't get it wrapped around the axle if that happens. I don't see anything happening, but you know, there's things that, and the only reason, you know, like this board is a super easy board to be on. You know, I mean, I don't feel a lot of stress here. You know, I mean, there's, you know, I think it's a great board, and I don't think there's any need. Anyway, my point is that we're not dealing with money that much. We don't have to raise money. We don't have to deal with a budget. You know, we ask the state for money. So my point is that it's an easy board, and these things are pretty basic in most boards. You know, so I don't know. There's other things, but I would suggest that we just review them and look at it with open eyes and see if there's something that we can revise that makes it a little more clear for those things. Executive sessions, another thing that I see is a little bit ambiguous. It's, how it's, I know Robert can call it executive session. Then it says like one other person can, but it's most times in executive sessions in my other work on boards, it takes like three other board members to call executive session. But that's through the chairman. That's through the chair. 3 board members can't take over the meeting. Everything goes through the chair. So anyway, that's what I've seen. What I've read. I went through them just because we did that electronic thing and I was going, how does that work?
We kind of pushed the envelope on that a little bit, but we were up against the wall
Yeah.
at the time. So
Right. I don't have any problem with how it played out.
our email correspondence may be used in lieu of written correspondence. It has nothing to do with voting. And I know that I'm a little uncomfortable voting online, but a lot of times we just barely have a quorum. And for some things, I think the whole board should vote. I don't know.
You have ideas how to change them?
Well, the way it's spelled out is that we can't, as a board, typically boards should review their bylaws every year. Typically on boards, there is a standing committee that is bylaws committee. But in this case, the director is the only one that can make changes to the bylaws. And we, as a board, can recommend changes to the bylaws, and we'll send them up to Ricky, and he can either approve them or not, and that's whatever. But I think it's good for us to let him know we want to function. We think this might be a better way to function so that it's clear, so that we're not, wrapped around the axle with something, that we're not comfortable with. Anyway, that we sit around here for 20 minutes figuring out what's right, what's wrong, or, how do we do this, So anyway.
So for those that haven't read our bylaws, conflict of interest, board members should avoid conflicts of interest in matters which they have directly related personal, ethical, or financial interest. Most of the time I get into these, it's financial interest. You derive money from whatever we're talking about. Go stand outside. It's cut and dry. And that's what we have here. So,
Or do we make up our mind if the person should stand outside?
you vote on it. The vote, like, if I say, okay, if a person is ethical, they'll say, I have a conflict of interest. Okay, state your conflict of interest. The board votes on it. Such and such has a conflict of interest. Yay, nay, yay, nay.
So
Go
it's written
around.
like that, then. That's how it's written right now.
That's the way it's done. It's not here, but if I was gonna run a meeting on
But
conflict
what
of
he was
interest,
saying was if he wasn't ethical, then do we have that option?
that is not written in these.
Okay, so that's what you were saying, is that we need that, like.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, that's something that should be, but I wouldn't say kick them out of the room. I would say that they gotta refrain from discussions and voting.
Depends on what you want to do. Some of them,
Right.
we don't even want them to listen to the discussion, so.
But after they get removed, after they are declared a conflict of interest, they're a member of the public. And you can't, and I would say that they still have to listen. It's not that, that's what I.
That's fine. I don't
Okay,
think that we're done. Yeah.
Okay, but I think what I was saying is that there should be a mechanism if somebody thinks that there's another board member has a conflict of interest, and I don't think that, just to be clear, I don't think that there's any issue that I see on the horizon or anything, but it's just something that I can see being an issue at some point or another.
Robert's rules, that thing that I sent you. In some cases, if that person doesn't fess up and another board member says, sorry, but I think you have a conflict of interest. I don't know if we want to get into that.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that it just says members shall disclose their potential conflicts of interest prior to the board discussion. That could be at any point in time prior to that. So if we just disclose all of our conflicts, I think we can just assume that that is before we discuss, and we can then, as board members, vote on whether that's a potential conflict of interest or not. I don't think the member has to bring it up right before the discussion. It just says before. So we can interpret that as extra time before.
As you go through the agenda. When you go down and when you're on an agenda item and you start, usually somebody makes the motion to put it on the floor. And at that point, somebody will say, I'm sorry, but I have a conflict of interest. And that's when the body will both say, okay, you have a conflict of interest. And then you're limited from your input.
All I'm saying is that the way it's written here, we could just say we vote on this conflict without them bringing it up again, as long as they brought it up.
So you think it's good enough the way it is?
I think it is. It could be clearer, but
I don't have a problem with this. The only thing that it does not have anything in there where a board member can say, I think you have.
we can still vote on it.
Well, if that person was going to fess up and say, then I'm not.
If we don't know of it, yeah.
That could get a little, we've had some pretty nice conversations on this board lately. There have been some in the past that a little bit dicey. So, and I would probably say that, yes, we all knew there was conflicts. But you're board member, so. And I don't know how, when they did these bylaws, they did them for all of the CABs. So we pushed Ricky a little hard on that, and I don't know if he's willing to entertain some of these or not,
Agent's discussion, Robert, suits the board. Rather talk to the superintendents.
That might be good, just if anybody else does. I think one of the biggest things for me is the date, because when people come aboard, it's usually in May or in September. So it should be from the end of April to the 1st of September. So, hi, Sue.
Yeah, I've had my hand up for a while. I hope you don't mind me interrupting here.
No, because
a couple of, yeah. Is it okay?
Go ahead.
Yeah. I suggest that Alan draft his revisions and bring them to the next meeting. And in the meantime, people can look at the bylaws and the areas that he was concerned with. And I would like to make a motion to change the bylaws to begin September and end in August. And I think we can do that. And I guess I would just also say that, when Ricky said that he just wanted to make all of the bylaws across the board the same, and Carol Griswold, who's the chair in Seward, and I worked so many hours on creating these bylaws, and I think they're pretty good. And of course it's great to revise them and look at them, and things change. And I think that Ricky would be open to, if they're really well thought out, and, we can do it in a concise way, to just making revisions on them. But anyway, there's a motion on the floor now.
Thank you. Would you state your motion again?
I move that the bylaws be changed, the dates, the term dates to begin in September and end in August. The terms to begin in September and end in August.
Well, point of order, real this time.
Okay, go ahead.
It says in our bylaws, we are not allowed to amend or revise without the director's acceptance, so I suggested be a motion to suggest.
So maybe you should say recommend to the director.
Great. I appreciate that addition there. Thanks so much.
Okay, so the motion is to recommend to the director. Switching the dates which
Term dates.
well, actually, it's the dates when a new person comes aboard. Instead of state year, it is September 1st come aboard to the following August 30, whatever it is.
Okay. Just another thought is if it would be better to wait until Alan drafts the revisions that he would like to, so we could just present it all to the director at one time. So we just have a very, one time changes that we want to make.
Somebody would like to make a motion to postpone.
Motion to postpone this until Alan gets his, wait a minute. Let Alan speak first before. It seems like it, is it? Okay. Second motion to postpone, Sue's recommendation to the director until Alan gets his framework put together. And then we can put them all together.
Casey, second.
I'll second that.
Hearing no objections. That would go ahead, Alan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My discussion is, my talks about the bylaws has turned into my thing. And these bylaws are everybody.
Yes.
And so what I suggest is that we kill whatever, for lack of better terms, or vote on it and kill it. And that every board member look at the minutes and review them and see if there's something that they want. We come back with recommendations to forward to the director for possible changes. I mean, I just think, and then that would give Hans time to do a little bit of legwork if he has time, and just, just kind of be a little bit more directive on what we're doing, so it's not piecemeal. And so it's just kind of like what Sue was saying. So there could be other things, or maybe we'll come back next month and we'll say, well, yeah, Alan was all messed up. That's totally good, but I don't think so. But I'm just anyway, that's my recommendation. I'm going to vote no on everything. That's what I'm going to do, because I don't want to piecemeal it. I'm just going to vote no. I'm going to come back next meeting with whatever recommendations. It could be more, it could be less, but I need to review them more in detail and understand them. I might call Hans for a question, and then just do it all in one sweep and be done with it.
Great. So we postpone action.
Okay, I agree. Let's all, if anybody's interested in reviewing the bylaws and wants to revise something, they need to draft the wording and present it to the board. And next month is great if we want to have that as like a homework assignment for anybody that's interested.
And keep in mind that a lot of work went into what you're reading. And for the most part, it's pretty good.
And I appreciate that, Robert. That's what I've heard from previous bylaw revision efforts from other caps, is that it's a lot of work. Secondly is, just for the term, something to think about. If we change the term, then it speaks to, do we change the term for everyone that's seated now? Or just people that are, newly appointed this next coming year? And I think I can review the bylaws too, but even though people's terms don't cover a whole year, you would only be without 3 or 4 board members. The whole board would still stand, which you can still get a quorum out of members you have. That makes sense. So just food for thought for further discussion.
Just twist it. Leave everybody there.
Well, I just, like, you're pulling the strings attached to a lot of stuff.
Yep, yep.
Which is okay.
Yep. Yeah, because it's currently in a fiscal year. It's cumbersome the way it is. Oh. All right. Any other conversation on this?
One. Policy on, virtual attendance and virtual voting or voting by email.
Yeah, I didn't really like the way that went down. So, but
I've seen other advisory boards just on the T9 do the same thing. They'll vote, no resolution work by email vote, but approval of letters of support, et cetera.
good. All right. Stopped on that one. D, state park user fees and permit costs, and I sent that out to everybody. And I think we got some new facts and figures. So if you're interested, it's there. I think my conversation with permits is it would be very interesting to propose to permitting, whoever that might be. Is that a single individual?
It's a group. Yeah, it's a single individual that heads up the permitting.
If they are using AI computers and everything, and I don't know what they get, whether they could just come up with a spreadsheet that would say, okay, we don't care about who it is, how much money they make. We're just interested in how many people they take to such and such a trail, such and such a place. And that gives this group numbers. And the more numbers, the more that we can take to various legislators and everything else and say, look at these guys are paying round trip, $120 or whatever it is, 160. What's a round trip these days?
$500. No, it's, when do you want to go? Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, you can't put something to fight with.
We have that around.
Good.
How do you keep track of people aren't reporting to you? I mean, is there any,
Don't report.
like, trips across or?
There's a fee structure associated with their use. And you don't pay, you don't play the next year. So.
If you catch somebody that's not, I mean, how do they have like if you get a deer, you mark it on the, or you get a,
Or you're,
I mean, is there some way that, like, if Jason goes in onto a boat, is there how does he know that?
we don't have a required documentation. That's what you're asking for
Yes.
use, but
So it's just it's the honor system. Okay. I just didn't know if there's some mechanism and.
yeah, good question. We don't require a third-party certification or.
Has anyone ever thought of that?
I've suggested it.
I mean, not being mean or anything, but just because the park does need money.
I think other agencies do that, right? Like, your numbers be provided by third party to the, permitting agencies, but just, state parks doesn't do that.
Any other questions? Anybody online got any questions? Good. We'll look forward to that. Because I know we had talked about it. Even cell phone. Getting information from how many cell phones. All right, the last one under new business was start state park unit regulations, and I put I added something in the packet for you all. And that was, I think the date on that was 9/24. And it doesn't include everything, but a few things from various state parks units. So I just found that kind of interesting.
Do the regulations come through this board at all? Like when there's new regulations that have been on quite a while, and I mean, it doesn't seem as though, I mean, it sort of does, but not really where we discuss, like, what do you guys think of this particular one that's gonna affect Kachemak Bay State Park?
Yeah, I mean, Sharon, I guess my experience with that, Nancy, is just the last year we brought, both personal watercraft and
Unmanned aerial vehicle.
That the state was scoping for both of those, the potential reg changes, so I think that would one point, that makes sense. As far as details regarding the rafting regulation and board's input, I don't know, Jason, if you have any experience with that while we do time here or not, but I think that's mostly
Material.
What's substantiated statute.
I guess to give since we're for the citizens, to let the citizens come and say, no, we don't like this, or we really like this, or maybe you should do this, or whatever. I mean, just to be able to exercise the public.
Yeah, I guess I would suggest at any point, could we, we do have a, lack of a better term, a statewide running list of regulatory cleanup things we do that are just housekeeping efforts we try to, take on during each session.
And where is that? I mean, when can we see those? I mean, we can, of course, go out on our own and do that, but I mean, did that come here to us to just say, hey, guess what? We're doing cleaning now.
Yeah, I can put that as part of my update when the session starts. What we've got.
If it's not too much trouble.
Yeah, it may be Chino Rec site, and it may be, it may be some park in Southeast that people can have a 10-foot dog leash instead of a 9-foot dog leash.
Exactly. Well, and the reason I say that is because what I'm noticing is people don't know the difference between a statute and a regulation.
Yeah.
And so we can also help with that education of that, because when a regulation comes in, we can say, well, this has to be reflected in statute, and here's the statutes that they're using, and just,
Yeah, thank you for that. I'll make sure, I'll just bring, I'll make sure I.
if you don't mind, I think it'd be good for us. Okay, great, thanks.
Administrative code is one thing, statutes. Rules, something else, yeah, the real rule.
Well, it's all constitution. I mean, it's gotta follow the Constitution. So it's just- Sometimes you'll get a regulation and you realize there's no statute they're following. That's kind of like this.
All right, any other questions on regulations? Anybody online? Any little hands up? Everybody's quiet, so let's move on then. Let's wrap this up. I think the informational material was on the Forest Service funding troubles. Yeah, we think we have troubles. They're losing $200,000 people plus.
What's that?
Forest Service trail people. Right. Just because of no funding. They're spending all their money fighting fires. Any comments from the public? Jay Brown.
Yeah, just a couple. First of all, thank all of the board for being here and the parks officials and so on. I think really important work you do. I got a couple of comments. One, I believe it's DOT that plows East End Road out to the end of the road. So, could the board or the parks or the public put in a request to DOT to pick up the blade when they go by mile 17.2 so they don't build a berm, or to leave the blade down, take a little bit of a wide spot there. They do that all up and down the highway all over the place. They don't plow everybody's driveways in. They do something. So a request to DOT, hey, help us out here, you know. Secondly, if that doesn't work, I'm wondering if possible for a volunteer to learn to drive a state park plow truck. You know, although plowing that the state park does in various waysides, recreation areas, that kind of stuff, there may not be enough staff time to do all that. So if there was someone that were a good driver, didn't have a record, but passed all those tests, could a volunteer use a plow truck to plow mile 17.2? Basically, the simple question. So anyway, it doesn't have to be answered right now, but it can be. Those are my two comments, 3 comments.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
It's a good suggestion.
Robert. I think that Caleb is here.
Caleb, would you like to come at our next meeting?
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. I just wanted to make sure I could stop by and say hi to you guys before I totally blew you off for the whole night. And then I'm happy to come by at the next meeting you guys have.
Because I'll put you on as visitor in a while.
That is perfect.
Wait. You gonna bring pictures?
I sent them all to Robert. I'm happy.
I got them all, but you know. We're getting
Getting
a
a
little.
almost 4 hours deep. I don't expect you to spend another 10 minutes on another small presentation. I'm totally fine coming back next time.
No, I think we can spend some time with you.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, no, you guys did an amazing job, so. If that's all right with you.
Yeah, I'm totally happy doing that.
Cool. Aaron.
Oh, back to Dave's comments, that's great. I mean, the snowplow does that all the time up along East End Road, so that would be the first choice. Yeah, just ask those guys to do that. But it's 17.4, not 17.2. And then the second suggestion of using the snowplow, that would be great too.
17.4.
That's where the turnout is, yes.
Thanks, Dave. Maybe we'll go up there to DOT with some, I don't know.
Donuts.
Donuts and some exotic coffee and just, you know, that's, kind words and a little gift make a big impression. Anybody else? Okay, anybody online? Jeannie, I see you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know, actually, if somebody called Troy Jones and he knows that little itty bitty spot, he would probably plow that out for about, I would think like, you know, $40 a plow, less than that, at 3 to 4 inches. But the state runs the East End Road. They plow that. And so you don't want that berm to get too high. And I would suggest call East Road Services and talk to Troy on his cell, because I think he would be really amenable to helping to keep that open. And if it does get plowed out, you really need signage up there. And I thought Aaron had, you know, got some kind of machine there, something that he could make a sign that here's parking here, whether it's, and I don't think it's ever going to be just temporary. I think it's going to be permanent parking, even at when, you know, 17 Mile gets approved. So a sign there would be really helpful if in fact the place is going to be plowed out.
Thanks, Jeannie. Yeah, we've passed that sign making machinery over to another board member of Friends, so we'll talk that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Maybe some of us will have to have a conversation with Troy. All right, anybody else from the public? Seeing none, any comments from park staff? Jason? Buds? Eric? Okay. Comments of the board, I'll start with you, Sue.
I did have my hand up. I was going to make a motion or see if anybody was willing to write a letter to DOT requesting that to bring it back to the board, or because December is our next month and we're going to have snow there. So it kind of be sooner than later that we need to write that letter.
We're just gonna go up there with some coffee and some donuts and talk to them. You know, the trucks that they use there, I don't even know if they can swing into that area, because most of the time, I don't know, without talking to them. So
Great. Okay, well, I salute you. Thank you. So you're willing to talk to them. Great.
okay. Got anything else, Sue?
No, thanks so much.
Kirsten Dixon.
Finding my mic button here. Hi, good meeting, everybody. I wanted to remind you that last time we mentioned the fact that we would like to have kind of a to-do action list that we kind of rolled along, and so we didn't forget or drop out items that we wanted to work on. And I'm just not sure who might create that action list, if it should just go on the end of the meeting or if it should go into Robert's emails out to everybody, or what you guys want to do with the to-do list, basically.
I'm always open to anybody that has a to-do list.
Yeah, any other ideas? Anybody? I don't know.
Ellen?
Thank you, Robert. I just would say that if there's a project or something that someone wants to work on, I'd say that they would run it through Robert as new business. And, you know, if it's I think a lengthy discussion I mean, there's so many things to do. How do you cherry pick it, or how do you decide what to do? And so I'm definitely open to, it's a good idea to have a list and of things to do. I mean, we kind of got, yeah, so I don't know. Is there any list presently? You know, we could load a list. Writing lists are easy. It's getting the list done and funded, because most lists involve money. So I don't know, Kirsten. I'd say, I don't know. That's kind of like, I'm open for creating a list.
I like lists, but I also say, be careful what you say, because it's gonna come back and say, okay, who's gonna do this?
Yeah, okay, so maybe we keep action items under old business, new business area then, you think?
Well,
or?
if you bring something to me that you want to see as new business, I'll put it on the agenda right now. And if it's something that isn't carry through with a conversation and have an action item on it, we can address that at a meeting.
This is Sue. I think about a couple meetings back where Kathy told us about friends and stuff that really needed to happen. And I do love the idea of so many things fall through the cracks that we talk about and get never addressed again, or we just forget about them and they're never resolved. And so, one idea is, at the end of the meeting, just have this, like little check boxes that we can look at and say, oh yeah, that's still important, or that kind of a thing to do. But just as not really part of the meeting, but it would also help us, to decide agendas.
If you're looking at me to come up with a checklist,
No, I'm
There
not,
you go.
Robert. I'm not. But maybe, as we take the minutes, we can kind of think about, or listen and just say, okay, is this something that needs done? And if it does, and we could add it or delete it from the to-do list. I've often been concerned about issues that we've talked about and we're pretty front and center, and then they don't get talked about again for a long, long time. And
Well, I hate to
don't
kick-
get solved.
I hate to kick this one down the road, but we were on board comments as far as closing and trying to get out of here, but,
I just have one comment for that. And that is that during the meeting, because I agree, we lose things, we're dropping things. So just have a code word. Let's just have a code word when we know that we're onto something and we want to talk about it more and we don't want it to fall through. We should have a pink or, sockeye salmon or something. Just say something that's so off the wall that we're going to write it down. We're going to stop for a moment and write it down, and then it'll go on the minutes as our list. I mean, there's got to be some way to alert us that, because we're missing things. There's a lot of times where, and I write it down, and then by the next meeting, it's just kind of gone.
It's good
But my-
to at least talk about it, and we can come back to this too, and we'll maybe with the minutes this month, we can try something and see what you think. At the end of the minutes, we'll add a list, and just you can say forget that or whatever.
Yeah, okay,
So-
yeah, we'll give it a try because we listened through the tapes again, and then, somebody says that they'll research something and, bring it to the board the next meeting, and then they don't or whatever. So we'll try to just see if we can pick up some of those things and keep track of them. And if it's, redundant or too much or whatever, then, we'll talk about that. That's all I have to say.
Kirsten, thank you. And I think, you guys listen to that recording. And when you do, if you hear somebody say something like that, yes, I think that's a great idea to bring that back around and remind them. So on subject. Okay.
Sorry, thank you for recognizing. I was just gonna say, you could use an existing structure, so the committees that we have, if there's anything that requires an action, I would switch committee, they have to report back the next meeting, and have the ability to continue working on it until the next meeting. So again, it would not add more structure, it would simply use what we have. So just a suggestion. I yield.
If I wasn't doing anything else, I would say I have a complete memory like a mule. And I can write down everything. I can. So, Kirsten and Stu, if you guys catch things as you go along and redo the minutes, you can have a little sheet at the end if something's important. But I would implore on people to come up with ideas at a meeting. Is that if it didn't happen at that meeting, don't let it go away. So anyhow, enough of that. All right. I've lost my agenda now.
We're doing the boards.
Yes, we are. I have names. Let's see who's still here. Nancy, I'll give it to you. Go ahead.
Okay, just, I'm happy to be here and thank you, Hans, and everyone with the park for keeping us going here and, doing all the work you're doing and I think we have a big responsibility and you know, I take it really seriously. I hope everyone else that's on this board does too, because I think it's really important that we keep it alive, that we have a gem of a park. And people don't really, I think that people take it for granted and we can never take this for granted, what we have here. It's really astounding. So anyway, that's my comments. Thanks.
Thanks, Nancy. Curtis checks.
I was just thinking about how many meetings do we have left? Like 6, 7 before we adjourn for the. My main thought is, I think it would be, and I don't, this is the first meeting I've been able to attend because of work this season, but if we could come together as a board and think of 1 or 2 specific goals we'd like to see the board achieve by the time we hit May, and we're always coming back to that. Because this is my 4th year now on the board, and it's always so reactionary. We're always kind of like, this thing happens, we like chase after it, then we chase after it. And like, I think like Alan's working on like a trails committee. I think that is a really nice focus to try to have, like, maybe this board advocates to grow Friends of the Park or whatever it might be. We have a finite goal that we can recognize by the time we get to May. Because that's my main, I like to see. Time flies.
Thanks,
You want to bring that to the next meeting?
Yeah.
So we don't forget?
A little proactive instead of reactive.
Right.
I like that. Thanks, Curtis. Aaron Peterson.
I'm good, thanks.
Louis left us. Louis gone. Morgan's gone. Casey.
Thank everyone for being here, and also especially thanks to the volunteers who put in that extra work on the Diamond Creek trail access. I thought I was going to have to be without my favorite trail all winter. So happy to have it back. Hopefully it stays. If there's any monitoring that's needed, I'm happy to walk down and take pictures and send them around. Just let me know if there's anything that'd be useful. So it's also excited about motivating a bunch of people for a work party in the spring. I'll try to brainstorm on that in the winter. Thank you.
Thanks, Casey. And last but not least, Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Robert. And yes, thank you, Hans and Eric and Jason. You guys are doing a great job. Really appreciate your work, putting up with me. And to all the board members. And to follow up on Curtis's comments is that I think it would be good if the board dusted off the park management plan and just look through that and just see what's there. And I think you're right on with coming up with some goals for a period of time that we have here, because we don't have a lot of time. You know, we really don't. I don't have a lot of time to be, we don't. And so I just think that's a good thing to do, and just say, oh yeah, like in the spring, we want to be this way. And that's kind of what I'm doing with this trails committee. You don't want to know what my deepest, darkest goals are. They're not bad. Anyway, but everything's on the table with me. So thanks a lot, you guys online. I really would like to see you guys at a meeting. I forget what you really look like.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you showed up. That way I don't have to say you weren't here. Friends of Kachemak.
I'm too.
Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry.
Kristen.
I'm too afraid to drive down the Diamond Ridge Road in the dark, so I have to practice at that, and then I'll come.
No problem.
Right, without further ado, I can't think of anything else, so we're adjourned.
Okay, good job, brother.
Do we have to put this away?
These tables are taken down.
With.
I'm hungry.
Good idea.
Yeah. Sorry, I had some work. Oh, that's okay. Yeah.
December 11th. Is that, when's the next meeting? December 11th or 10th?
Did we take this down?
I think it's the 10th.
You do?